It has been 0 days since a Scarlett Johansson I cannot say her name. It has been 0 days since a Scarlett Johansson controversy. Now, I know a lot of people are going to probably make videos talking about Scarlett Johansson, either the good news of Scarlett Johansson this week with Jojo Rabbit, Marriage Story possibly giving her Oscar nominations, and then the other side of things with the bad stuff with these controversial statements that she keeps just saying for no reason. I don't want to talk about either of those things. Recently, this summer, I decided to watch all of Scarlett Johansson's filmography. Why? I don't know, but I did it. And I did it for absolutely no reason. I do this often because I like acting and I like to learn and watch people grow as actors, where I'll pick one person and I'll watch most of the films they've done to see the range of talent they have or the range of talent they don't have. During that process of watching everything that woman has done in her career of 20 plus years, there were some good movies, there were some bad movies, and then there was one horrendously amazing movie, which is the subject of this video today. Now, in the category of good Scarlett Johansson movies, I'd put all of the Marvel films, because even a bad Marvel film is a good movie, except Age of Ultron, because I hate that movie, but we'll talk about that another day. In the good category, along with the Marvel films, I will put movies like Her, Under the Skin, those movies. Also in that category, I put movies like He's Just Not That Into You, if you like a rom-com. It was a pretty good movie. And I'd also put like We Bought a Zoo if you like a family flick, because it was cute. There wasn't much. Oh, and of course I have to put in the good category the SpongeBob SquarePants movie where she plays Mindy. Didn't even know that was her until recently, so who knew? I'd even put a maybe for Don John because that movie is bad, but I love it. And then there's a bunch of movies that are just like maybe, or like why was this made? Like, I don't know, Hail Caesar or Hitchcock. There's just a bunch of movies with her that just don't feel necessary to be made. And then there were bad movies, like The Island with Ewan McGregor and Steve Buscemi. And that movie was just bad. I don't even want to talk about that movie. It was just a bad movie that I had no enjoyment watching, and I really didn't care for it at all. The common denominator in most of Scarlett Johansson's films is that she's very attractive. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to be a very attractive woman and to showcase your body on screen, but I'm not going to not acknowledge the fact that a lot of films with her in it are just like overtly sexualized. But I'm not here to talk about Marvel today. I'm not even here to talk about Scarlett Johansson's sexualization in her characters. I'm not even here to talk about how bad her accents are, because they are the worst accents I've ever heard. Now, the only movie that she has done a good accent in is Don John. Any other movie where she does an accent, the other Bowling Girl, hell, look at the Jojo Rabbit trailer, accents are not her thing. So to recap, Scarlett Johansson, controversial. Scarlett Johansson, good movies. Scarlett Johansson, bad movies. Scarlett Johansson, sexualized. Scarlett Johansson, bad accents. But what is the one thing that we need to talk about with Scarlett Johansson that has not really been touched on? The 2014 movie Lucy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Katie, why would you make a YouTube video about a movie that came out 5 years ago? This summer, when I had embarked on my journey of watching all of her films, I did not think that this movie that has grossed over $400 million would be this stupid. I've never seen a film more times just to try and understand the plot. Some of you probably have never even seen a trailer for it or seen the movie in general. I'm here to change that for you. I have watched this movie 12 times. 12. And I did this for you guys. Not for me, but for you. That's why I watched it 12 times. When I was given this gift of a terrible movie like Lucy, I thought more people would be talking about this, but they aren't, and I don't know why. So, on behalf of all of YouTube, on behalf of everyone who has seen the movie Lucy, I, Katie, am making this video today to talk about how bad the movie Lucy is. Let's flash back to 2014, where this movie Lucy started having trailers come out. I mean, in the beginning, it kind of looked like it'd be a good movie. We had Morgan Freeman, we had Scarlett Johansson, it was an action movie, she was Black Widow. What could go wrong? A lot went wrong. This movie is not good. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and go plot point by plot point to talk about every wrong turn that was made with this movie, but rather talk about some of the big categorical features of this film that just made it so goddamn unbearable to watch. Number one, There was no exposition. Now, I'm a theater major, so as theater majors, we know about the Frey tags triangle, but you may not, and that is totally fine. But you probably do know it, just not under that name. Now, the Frey tags triangle basically is a mapping point for writers to create a good story. Now, this triangle starts with the exposition, then there's rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Now, exposition is why are we watching this film? It sets up the film. And exposition is really important because it gives the audience a reason why they should be even looking or watching or sitting in this theater right now to watch this film. And without good exposition, the ending doesn't really matter because we never fully cared about these characters. Exposition doesn't mean you need the full backstory of the main protagonist or anything going on really, but you do need enough information to make you have some sort of connection right away. The movie Lucy doesn't just lack in exposition. It has none. The only exposition is a small scene between Scarlett Johansson and a cowboy hat man fighting outside of a hotel where you find out they've been dating for 1 whole week. Some parts of the exposition that are necessary that we did not get as audience members are why is Lucy in Japan in the first place? How old is Lucy? Because she mentions having exams on Monday and she does not look 20. Why are they wearing what they're wearing? Who are these people? What's that guy's name? What are they doing? Why is he in a cowboy hat? Why are they outside this hotel? Who is Lucy? Where did she come from? What is going on? There's nothing at all. The only exposition you get is they are arguing. He has to bring a briefcase into this hotel. She gets tricked into it and she's wearing a cheetah print fur thing in like 98 degrees in Japan for no reason. We have no reason to like Lucy. We have no connection to Lucy. You don't really know who Lucy is, but the movie starts. She gets in this hotel, she gets kidnapped, her boyfriend with the cowboy hat gets shot, and that's it. That's your exposition, and the plot just starts. Which sounds enticing, except it's not at all. Number 2, most of this movie is stock footage. If you think I'm kidding, I'm not. Maybe it's not genuine stock footage that someone just Googled and pulled out from the internet. You know, maybe just maybe these people actually filmed some of these scenes. But there are large parts of this movie that are dedicated to just showing animals, you know, having sex together, animals killing each other. Hell, just random shots of random locations. I think the director wanted to use a lot of stock footage for metaphors, but what it ended up doing is making the audience feel spoon-fed so hard that we wanted to throw up. We get it. It's so tongue-in-cheek. There are scenes of her being kidnapped and she's in a cheetah print outfit, and then that flashes to an antelope being chased by a cheetah. We get it. We get the metaphor. It is so horrible. It is like a child created this movie and was like, hey, I don't know if you guys get it. Do you get it? And we're like, yeah, we got it. And they're like, no. We're just going to keep showing you stock footage because you need to really understand it. And this is all just in the first 10 minutes of the film. We're not even far into it yet, and I already hate it so much. The other side of this film is Morgan Freeman giving a long speech about brain capacity, which brings us to the third part of why this movie sucks. It makes no sense at all. This requires a little bit of synopsis of the movie Lucy so that you can understand what is going on, even though no matter what, no matter how many times you watch this movie, you'll never understand truly what is going on. But let me give you a chance. The movie starts, Lucy's fighting with Cowboy Hat Man outside of a hotel. She has to do a drug deal for him. He handcuffs her to the briefcase. She goes in to do this drug deal, tells the front desk guy that she needs to meet whoever the cowboy hat guy said, and he gets shot. She gets dragged away to a hotel room. She's crying, she's scared, she's begging for her life. She's low-key kind of the worst human being and you don't really feel bad for her. She yells, "Do you even speak English?" to the English translator who has been doing his job properly, just because she's very stressed right now. So nothing is really answered until she ends up unconscious. She wakes up, she's got a scar on her stomach, and they tell her that they put drugs inside her and they need her to transport these drugs to other places. Now, while this plot's going on, Morgan Freeman's giving a speech about how humans only use about 7 to 10% of our human brain capacity, and if we used more, it would be so much cooler. And I don't really know. It was a very long speech. It was just annoying, and I didn't like it. So these two plots are going on, and Scarlett Johansson's being all scared and crying and kidnapped, and and all that fun stuff. And she ends up getting into a jail cell where she needs to transport these drugs. Now, it wouldn't be a Scarlett Johansson movie if she wasn't being used for sex, so this man who has her captive starts trying to feel her up, and she's not having it. And he's not having it either because it's her, and he deserves her, and he wants to have sex with her. So he starts beating the shit out of her. He starts kicking her right where she had the drugs put in her stomach, which causes the drug bag to leak out into her body and really mess with things. So, did you think we were at the plot of the movie yet? Nope, we just got there now. With the drugs now in her body, turns out this drug has some wild side effects, and she starts flying around the jail cell room, which makes for cool visuals, but the practicality of it didn't really make sense at all. Now, the rest of the movie, now that the drugs are fully inside her bloodstream, is just about how these drugs keep increasing her capabilities because she's utilizing more of her brain. That's how they connected the plot. Honestly, the first time I saw this movie, the first half hour is not bad. It's kind of compelling that this woman gets kidnapped and the drug thing, and then you're kind of intrigued by the superhero aspects of this drug, and you're kind of just like in it for the ride. But this movie takes a turn when we get to the hospital scene. Now you're wondering, what is this hospital scene you're talking about? Why could a hospital scene be that bad? Well, let me start it off with Lucy just carries a gun into a hospital, and no one says a word to her at all. She walks all the way to an OR, opens it up, shoots a bunch of people, and then forces the surgeon to operate on her to get the drugs out of her. Now you're like, okay, it's a little much, but it's not that bad, right? Nope, you'd be wrong. She takes the cell phone of the surgeon and calls her mom, who I will give an award to for the worst actress on the other line of a phone in the world. Movies with phone calls, you don't really think about the fact that they don't film it live. There's not really a person on the other side of the phone call. So Scarlett Johansson gives a damn good performance on her side, but this mother absolutely did not hear a goddamn word Scarlett Johansson was saying and filmed it in the most bland way possible.
Sweetie, you can't possibly remember that.
What are they talking about on the phone? Well, Lucy's telling her mom all the weird stuff that's been going on and how she feels everything, and she doesn't know how to react. And the mom's like, well, that's weird, I miss you, whatever, bad connection, ah. And then Lucy says,
I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth.
I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth.
I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth.
And that's when I wanted to turn off this movie. That is a genuine quote from this film, and I want to die. I hate it so much. So, Lucy's in the hospital, the surgeon tells her about these drugs, which is basically a synthetic version of a hormone that mothers give their babies in the womb. And if people had large doses of it, they'd be dead, but what? She's not dead. So, okay, then the rest of the film takes place. She goes back and she seeks vengeance on the guy who kidnapped her in the beginning, and blah 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 blah, and they want the drugs, and Morgan Freeman wants to use her for research, and yada yada yada. The movie makes no sense. The science behind it makes no sense. The brain capacity part makes no sense. Morgan Freeman and Scarlett Johansson give pretty decent jobs for a script that they probably did not understand at all. Which brings me to the last reason why this movie is the worst movie ever made. The ending. Although this movie has been very confusing, there have been some visuals that make absolutely garbage no sense, and you know, it kind of just feels like a director who had a lot of vision but actually no logical way of filming a film. I think this movie could have been potentially pretty good if you found out at the end that she was tripping this entire time and none of this stuff happened. Now, that seems like a cheap ending, right? You're like, well, she's high the entire time and none of this happened, but I bet you'd feel more satisfied than the actual end of the movie. Imagine Scarlett Johansson sitting in a chair and turning into basically Slenderman and running through time with her mind, while one guy tries to shoot her in slow motion. Suddenly, she starts to turn into a goo thing, and then she becomes a USB drive. Sounds pretty crazy, right? No movie would ever do that. No, you'd be wrong, because Lucy did that. The movie Lucy takes you on a 90-minute journey of confusing twists and turns, and none of them are satisfying at all, and nothing makes sense, and you're watching stock footage of nature like it's March of the Penguins, which also had Morgan Freeman in it, so it's basically the same thing. And it takes you all this time to get to this ending where you finally want an answer for why you've been watching this film. And instead, Scarlett Johansson turns into a USB drive. That's it. That's the tweet. I watched this movie 12 times. This movie makes no sense. I could go on all day and talk about how bad this movie is in detail and how each scene is just a conglomerate of who knows what. But this is my first YouTube video, and I kind of just wanted to test out this new format of me talking about things that I want to talk about, like the movie Lucy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, maybe subscribe, because I'm gonna try doing more things on this channel. Check out my new website I created all by myself. It's free to make, which is why the domain name has Weebly in it, but you know what? I'm poor and I just needed something to start me off. And yeah, you can decide if you want to watch the movie Lucy or not, but if you do, I recommend being inebriated because it helps those 90 minutes go by pretty quick. I don't know. Is that it? Did I do this? I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Hi! Who knew? Who knew that one of the top grossing actresses of all time would be privileged? Mental time travel.